Hello, so creative, it's Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. In today's tutorial we are going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful pants that you are seeing on the screen. You see how beautiful it's looking on me. It's corporate pants. You can use it to go for your corporate show or use it and sew corporate outfit. You can see the crotch line, everything is looking so perfectly, and it has a side pocket. So I'm basically going to teach you how to cut and sew every detail of this beautiful pant trouser, and both the pocket, how to infuse your pocket, your waistband, and how to get your perfect crotch line, like crotch line that does not have any gaping at the front. You can see how the crotch line is sitting very pretty on my waist. Yeah, we are going to learn everything about this pant trouser. You see the pant trouser is so fine, very corporate, and if it's something that you like to learn how I cut and put it together, grab your seat and popcorn and sit, don't go anywhere, and keep watching, and don't skip any part so that you don't get confused. The cutting is free hand and you can cut it with just 1.5 yards of crepe material, our zipper, our tape rule, and our chop. And let's get to our cutting table. I've gone ahead to fold our fabric into two using my hip divide by 2 plus 5-inch extra allowance so that we can get the fullness of the palazzo pants. So I'm marking out our starting line. From this starting line we are going to impute our crotch depth line. Your crotch depth line is your hip divide by 4 plus another extra 1-inch allowance to the value you have from your hip divide by 4. You add extra 1-inch allowance. If you're on a plus size, you can add 1.5 inches to the value you got from your hip divide by 4. It will give you your perfect crotch depth. The next thing we are marking now is our crotch line. So from our crotch depth, we also mark out our hip divide by 4 plus 1 inch as well on our crotch depth, and also on our waistline in order to get a straight line. This will serve as our crotch line. The next thing we are going to mark now is our crotch extension. Your crotch extension is your hip divide by 20 will give you your perfect crotch extension. So after getting it, what we are going to mark out next is from our waistline to our hip line. We are going to indicate it. So from this our hip line, we are going to come out by 1/2 inch. You see what I did there? So we are basically going to go ahead and join it to our crotch extension, and that is it for your crotch curve. So this will give you your perfect crotch curve line. So after getting our perfect crotch curve line, what we are going to mark out now is our waist divide by 4 plus 1 inch dart intake and plus 1 inch sewing allowance. We taper it all over to our crotch depth line like so. So the next thing we are going to do now is to add sewing allowance, half inches sewing allowance around our crotch curve. So after marking that, the next thing we are going to mark out now is our nipple to nipple measurement in order to open up our dart leg, and our dart depth is just 4 inches. So we are done working the upper part of our trouser. We are going to proceed to work on the down part. So basically what we are going to now do is to impute our trouser length. So our trouser length is 48. Because it's going to have a bind of 2 inches, I minus 2 inches from that 48, and I mark out the remaining 46 inches into several places to get our trouser length. And I went ahead to add extra 2 inches for the hemming allowance of the trouser into several places as well in order to get a straight line. The next is to get the knee line of our trouser. So from the crotch depth to the length of my trouser, I mark out what I have there, the middle of what I have there, and I went up by 1 inch in order to get the knee line of my trouser. But should in case you measure your client, you can go ahead and add your client's knee line, but if you did not measure it, this is the best way to get it. The next thing we are going to get is our crease line, that middle line that is always on trouser. So you measure everything you have under your crotch depth line, everything, both the extension, crotch extension, everything you have there. You get the midpoint. That midpoint, you also mark it under your knee line. It will serve as your crease line. You see that straight line that is running from there. Yeah, so on that crease line we are now going to mark out half free you want the knee of your trouser to be. This will determine the palazzo effect. I want mine to be 24 inches free. That 24 divided by 2 will give me 12 inches. So I'm going to place middle of 12 inches on that my crease line. You can see me from the camera. I place 6 on my crease line. I place 6 on my crease line. So what I'm basically going to do now is to mark out from that 6. I'm going to mark out from the right side of my trouser and now complete it at the left side of my trouser. You can see what I did there. Yeah, you are going to now go ahead and join it from your crotch extension line and also from your hip side area. You're also going to pull it down, and you're also going to repeat the same thing on the hem part. Join the crease line, find the crease line, you mark out your crease line, you place the middle of 12 on that crease line, which is 6. You mark out from the beginning to the ending part of 12. The reason why you have your crease line is to get an equal measurement on both sides of your trouser. You see, adding 6 on this side and also adding 6 on this side will give your trouser equal measurements after getting the middle of your trouser. So that is the work of your crease line. So after getting everything, we are done drafting the front of our trouser and went ahead to cut it out. After cutting it, we are going to use this front to cut the back, and that is it for our beautiful palazzo pants. Moving over to the back, I have gone ahead to fold our fabric into 2. So we are going to start drafting the back. The back, we are going to increase the crotch line by 1.5. You can see what I did there. Increase your crotch line by 1.5. Your back crotch line is higher than your front, and on that crotch line I came in by 1 inch as well. That crotch line I came in by 1 inch. On the crotch depth line I also came in by 1/2 inch as well. So I'm going to basically join that 1/2 inch to that 1 inch we came in on the waist area. You can see that the crotch line is now slanted. So for your back crotch extension, you're going to divide your hip, divide by 10. It's going to give you your perfect crotch line extension for the back. You add extra 1/2 inch sewing allowance, and you're basically going to go ahead and join it to your crotch back line. So your crotch back line should be deep inside. It should not be outside like the front. It should go deep so that your butt will enter very perfectly well. It will fit very perfectly well. So that 1 inch we came in by the upper side, we are going to replace it by the side. You can see what I did there. And that 1/2 inch we came in at the crotch depth, I also replace it by the side, and that is it for the front. The front crotch line is deep, like I said earlier. It's meant to be deep, it's not meant to be outside. So when you take it deep, you now replace all the measurements by the side. And I went ahead to input my dart leg. My dart leg for the back is 5 inches. So let me repeat what I did there. From our front crotch line, I came in by 1/2 inch on the crotch depth, while on the waistline I came in by 1 inch. So this is how I got my back deep crotch line. So our back has a new crotch line. We are not making use of our front crotch line. You can see from the video. So if you don't understand it very well, you can rewatch the video many times so you get to understand. While on the knee line, I came out by 1/2 inch, and that 1/2 inch I joined it to our back crotch line. And that is it for the drafting of the trouser. While by the side, you can also go out by 1/2 inch by the side. On the hip area, you can go out on the knee line by the side 1/2 inch, and you also join it on the hip area. So that is it for the drafting of the back, and the back is basically ready. I went ahead to start cutting it, so it's time to sew it after cutting. So I'm joining the back crotch line together, and I'm going to sew 1/2 inch. Remember, we added 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'm basically going to sew 1/2 inch and also hold our dart line. And for the front as well, I'm also going to sew 1/2 inch on the front crotch line. I also hold our dart line. So I've gone ahead to hold both the dart and also sew the crotch line of both the front and the back. The next thing we are going to do now is to join the inner trouser of our beautiful pants. So I'm basically going to open up the crotch line, both the front and the back. I'm going to join them together like so. I'm going to match the two crotch line, both the front and the back, and I'm going to pin it down, and I'm going to arrange it and pin it down. We are going to go ahead and sew the inner stitches of our trouser. So it's called the inner stitches of your trouser. After arranging it, you can go ahead and pin it down with your office pin. I'm basically going to move over to my sewing machine and sew half an inch from the crotch line that I joined together. I'm going to sew half an inch to the hem part of our trouser, and I will start again, and also from the crotch line I will sew by half an inch the other part so that the legs will complete. So the next thing we do is to cut out our pocket and our pocketing. After sewing the inner trouser, we kept it by the side and start working on our pocket and pocketing. The length of our pocket and pocketing is 10 inches length, and width is also 10, which is 10 by 10. I'm going to cut it into 4 places. 2 will serve as our pocket and other 2 will serve as our pocket turner. So I'm basically going to cut this into 4 places. I've gone ahead to cut the 4 pockets. I'm trying to curve it to give it that pocket shape. You can see how I curved it. So you can curve yours anyhow you want. If you also want to sew it as this rectangle, you can also go ahead and sew it 4 corner rectangle, but I like curving mine to pocket shape. And after curving it to pocket shape, the next thing we are going to do now is to start working on our pockets. I went ahead to notch the upper part so that I will not get confused. So after notching the upper parts, we are going to start working on our pockets. We are going to bring in our trouser, and the 2 fronts of our trouser, we are going to place it together like so. So after placing it together, from the hip area, I'm going to mark out the 1 inch sewing allowance we added for the waist, and from that 1 inch I also came in by another 3 inches, and from the waistline, which is the upper part, I came down by 6 inches, and I'm going to join that 3 by 6 together to form our pocket curve line. And I'm placing our pocket turner. This is the turner we are going to use to turn that curve line. And I also went ahead to replicate what I did on the main pocket to the pocket turner, and we are going to go ahead and cut it out. While cutting, we are just going to add ½ inch sewing allowance around that our marked line, so that it should, in case you want to turn it, we have allowance to use and turn it. So after marking out the 1½ inches, we are going to basically use this pocket turner now to turn around the curve we just cut out, and facing the right side of the pocket turner to meet the right side of our beautiful palazzo pants. I'm basically going to go ahead and sew it. So I've gone ahead to sew it, you can see. So I'm notching it, and the next thing I'm going to do is to flip the turner and top stitches and flip it to the wrong side. So I've gone ahead to top stitch it. I'm going to now go ahead and trim out the allowance a little bit. So after trimming out the allowance, I'm going to now flip it to the wrong side, which is the back, and pin it down. So I'm basically going to also repeat the same thing I did here to the other side of the pocket. So after flipping it to the wrong side, we are going to now bring out the pocket that is going to complete what we just cut out and give us that pocket effect. So this pocketing now, we are going to measure 4 inches we cut out from the side. You can see me marking out the 4 inches and also placing what we just done, our main fabric, on top of it in order to pin it down. So this is how you complete your pocket. You complete it with your pocketing. You mark out the 4 inches you have, and it's going to just align, and we are going to go ahead and run a stitch around that part. And I'm basically going to repeat what I did there to this other side. Measure 4 inches, mark it out, and I'm going to place that pocket we just done on that 4 inches and start pinning it down. So if I pin it down, I also arrange the side as well and also pin it down. And the next thing we are going to do now is move over to our sewing machine to go and secure our pocket. So this part I mark out now is where we are going to go ahead and sew on our sewing machine. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and our pocket is front, and also hold it down by the side and also by the waistline and our pocket is formed. The next thing we are going to do now is to close the side of our beautiful palazzo trouser. So basically I'm going to mark out the waistline, and the allowance we have, we are going to divide it by 2. We are going to share it into 2 places, and I'm going to mark out my hip line as well on both sides of the trouser, and I'm going to measure what I have here as my hip line. The remaining allowance, I'm going to divide it into 2, and I'm basically going to join it to my waistline, and that line I'm going to take it all over to my hem part of my trouser, and I'm going to repeat the same thing on this other side. That allowance that we have, that 1 inch we mark on the other side, I'm also going to mark it on this other side, and we are going to mark it, taper it all over to the hem part of our trouser after using office pin to hold everything down. So I'm basically going to go ahead and sew it on my sewing machine. So I've gone ahead to run the stitches. You can see how pretty our trouser is coming out to be. So the next thing we are going to do now is to hem the down part of our trouser. So I'm basically going to turn the 2 inches we added while drafting the trouser. If I turn it, I pin it down. So I'm going to pin it all around, and the same thing I did on this other leg is what I'm going to do on the other leg. And I'm going to move over to my sewing machine and go and run a stitch and come back and show you the effect. If you don't want your hemming part to have any stitches on it, you can go ahead and use your hemming gum to hem it down. So after pinning it down, I went ahead to my sewing machine to run a stitch on it, and this is the outcome. You can see how pretty it's looking. I ran a stitch on both leg of our trouser, and the next thing now we are going to infuse our zip. So I went ahead to infuse my zip at the back side of my trouser. So this is how I infuse my zip. I hem the allowance that we have already sewn, and I top stitch it on top of our zip. Should in case you don't want your zip to show at the back side, you can go ahead and use this method, but if you want your zip to show, you can use the normal way you know how to infuse your zip to infuse your zip. So because I don't want my zip to show, I went ahead to top stitch, hemming the allowance that I've already sewn and top stitch on top of my zip, and that gave me a clean cover for the zip. And this is how it's looking after I went ahead to sew it down. You can see it's looking pretty. So the next thing we are going to do now is to measure around our waist in order to cut at our waistband for the beautiful palazzo trouser. So after getting my measurements, the next thing I'm going to do now is to start working on our waistband. The width of our waistband should be 5, so that if you fold it into 2, it's going to be 2.5, while the length of our waistband is the length of our waist, which my waist is 29. I went ahead to add extra 1 inch allowance because we are going to fold the 2 edges. So these are the 2 edges we are going to fold. This part I'm marking, I'm going to sew it on the both edge of our waistband. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and the next thing we are going to do now is to turn it to the right side. So while sewing it, I just sewed 2 inches. I left ½ inch because we are going to use that ½ inch to start joining it on our trouser. So I'm going to cut out the excess of the zip because we won't be needing it, and I'm going to start sewing on the right side of our trouser. So I'm placing the waistband on the right side of our trouser. I'm going to go ahead and now sew ½ inch all around to the other part of the zip. So I'm basically going to move over to my sewing machine and go and sew it and come and show you the outcome. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and this is it. You can see how pretty it's looking. So the next sewing we are going to do now is to sew the inner part of our waistband, which is the wrong side of our waistband. So I'm going to basically bring it in. I will hem it down and pin it first before I move over to my sewing machine to go and top stitch on top of it. So if I bring it in, I pin it down. So after pinning it, I'm going to move over to my sewing machine to go and top stitch on top of it and come back and show you the outcome. So I like working with my pin. If you have been watching my you will know that I like making use of my pins a lot. So I've gone ahead to sew it and also add pressing button on the zipper area side. So we are going to use that pressing button to cover the waist, and this is the outcome. You see how pretty it's looking. Yeah, so if you have watched to this point, thanks for watching. Our trouser is basically ready, and watch out for our next tutorial. Bye bye my lovers. Mwah.